She said, "Jerry's dead. He died in a car wreck."
It was their worst fear.
An hour later, 3 state troopers show up at the door.
With tragic news to start the day.
It was a hard way to start a Saturday morning. I think about him every day, all the time. I used to count the days after his passing, and now I just count the months.
Terry and Keith Ellis are the father and older brother of Trooper Jerry Ellis, who was killed in a head-on crash March 30th by a drunk driver going the wrong way on I-94 in northern Illinois. Ellis made a brave, selfless, and instant decision to hit the driver, just so another family that was traveling in the same direction could make it home. Ultimately, Ellis paid the price.
It just seemed like a nightmare just happened.
His brother and father says that's who Trooper Ellis was, a humble man who would do anything to help anybody.
Kind soul, would do whatever he had to help someone out. A
man of sacrifice, spending 11 years with the Illinois State Police and time in the U.S. Army.
My brother, been a very patriotic man, always had a love for supporting his country.
The Ellis family says not only did the 36-year-old pour out his heart serving the country and keeping people safe on the roads, but his family always came first, especially his 2 daughters.
Was a family man, loved his 2 little girls. You call him on a day off, he was out doing something with them.
Keith says even though his brother took his job seriously, he was known for having a great sense of humor.
Get a lot of people in trouble, how his sense of humor was. But everybody look at him and say, "Oh, it's just Jerry, it's no big deal."
But it's the love that everyone had for him that the family appreciates during this tough time. The family says the support from back at home has been great, just like when the local community came together to dedicate the park right behind me in Trooper Ellis's name.
The dedication of the memorial in Colchester probably hits a little closer to home. It shows how grateful small town people are.
People came from near and far to pay tribute to a true hero, something the family says they will always be grateful for.
Just devastating, I mean, because most of them didn't even know Jerry, and they just come to pay their respects.
I mean, all the signs up, electronic signs, I mean, with his name all over them.
A powerful last goodbye that's still fresh in their mind. The Ellises say they don't wish this nightmare on anyone.
I don't wish any parent to have to go through this, because it's the hardest thing in the world and the rest of your life.
Even through their pain, they hope this serves as a message.
When you see red lights and yellow lights, you need to slow down so then people can go home that night too.
He's described as a light in the room.
Need good luck from you.
He's also considered the biggest fan you can have.
He's just Mike.
Because I was in a wheelchair, people assumed that I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that.
Michael Martinez is a 27-year-old sophomore at Carl Sandburg College, who everyone knows, but not because he rolls around in a wheelchair. It's because of his spirit for others.
Caring, whenever you need somebody, he's always there.
Though if you meet Michael, he focuses on his ability, not disability. And that's how he's able to coach sports teams, not letting his disability of spina bifida keep him from being at sports games and leading groups on campus.
It's amazing to feel the love, the atmosphere. Take good shots, play defense. When you play defense, get a score. You gotta capitalize off those.
He's very energetic. He brings life wherever he goes.
Now Michael is looking to take a step further.
This chair gives Michael an opportunity to get a little more mobility.
Mike says this chair will make a difference for him because it's going to give him the ability to do what he has not been able to do for years, but now, making this possible, will be able to let him talk to people while standing.
I was always stuck in the house, watching out the window, watching my friends do things.
But by raising enough money for this new chair, walking and standing becomes a reality for Michael.
It was always, Michael can't do this, Michael can't do that, so why even invite him?
And now his friends want to make a change in his life.
Michael's going to do great things with this chair.
Michael hopes this encourages other people with disabilities to see that they are not left out.
Whatever disability they may have, you don't even notice it because you look past that.
Welcome back. We continue our series series into the death investigation of former WIU graduate Tyler Smith, who was found dead in Galesburg last September. Today, we break down more of what the family feels has been a hard time trying to get justice for their son.
It was just error after error after error after error.
Tyler Smith's parents say more than a year after their son was found dead in Cedar Creek in Galesburg, they continue to hit roadblocks with the police department.
If we would have known you weren't looking for video, you can be sure that I would be here, his dad would be here, our family would have been here, his friends, the whole community we live in would have been here doing your job.
Smith's parents say they have more than a dozen claims they feel investigators didn't care about, like finding Tyler on the Casey's and ATM surveillance video, which Tyler's parents say police told them they didn't see him on, even after having it for 3 weeks. Next on their list of claims, throwing away evidence like Tyler's clothes, shoes, the beer can, and release the rest of his belongings in 4 days. Sandra Halsney says no DNA was tested and no x-rays or fingerprints were done. And she claims police first told her no business checks were done at the Casey's, but later police said there was.
If you didn't want to do your job and you were just plain lazy, what better way to be lazy than to have somebody else come and do that job?
The family says these marks by Tyler's ankle look like marks similar to a stun gun or taser, but police said no officers had tasers on them that night, and police say no dash cam video was on at the time the officer drove down the street. Halsney says scanner traffic was quiet during that time.
And the family says you all threw evidence away, then wanted to release it just days after.
Items of evidentiary value are kept until they're no longer needed as evidentiary value.
Chief Idle says the department stands by calling this an accident.
There's one more piece of information to suggest most likely that this was accidental as he's walking by himself.
It wouldn't necessarily have piqued the officer's interest at all. I mean, as we drive around as patrol officers, we observe people walking down the street, and there's nothing striking about it at all.
And from this fence, the family says a few things could have happened. Tyler would have to walk across these railroad tracks and either come down this concrete incline, or someone may have brought him in a vehicle through these gates if they had the key. Now, if he was still on foot, he would be walking through this canal in water, slipping and falling, and then somehow end up all the way down there in the canal. But it's all of these unanswered questions that still has the family trying to get to the bottom of what happened.
All along, I kept telling Keith and my family, I just don't feel like something's right from the get-go.
Tyler's parents hired a private investigator, which found that per protocol of Galesburg Police, a death scene checklist should have been filled out. A sergeant confirmed that one wasn't. The investigator also found an Illinois State Police crime scene technician could have been called in, who works in the same building as the police department, but wasn't.
I feel like Tyler would have had every one of those people that have turned their backs on him, he would have had their back.
And you can find a complete list of the family's claims on our website, news3wiu.com. That's also where you will find parts 1 and 2 of our series.
I believe we should keep a local police department.
The future of policing in Colchester is unknown as city officials try to decide what law enforcement presence will serve and protect the area.
I feel like that we need to get a new chief appointed as soon as possible.
Since the end of August, the Colchester Police Department has been without a police chief, leaving city officials scrambling about what to do.
Just because we don't have a chief doesn't mean we need to just look at disbanding it.
Newly elected Alderman Mike Eddy says if the officials decided to keep the Colchester Police Department, a new chief would need to be hired. But if aldermen vote to disband the department, city leaders would have to create a contract with the McDonough County Sheriff's Office.
They need to listen to the public. They need to listen to the voters.
Here is one of the Colchester police cars, which sits here all during the day. The only time this vehicle would come out is during the evening and overnight. So that leaves little to no police presence if something were to happen during the day.
When the schools are filling up and when the schools are empty, let's get cops out there.
We really need to have more coverage.
Eddy says the department currently has 5 part-time police officers who only patrol at night. He says after the chief resigned, a sheriff's deputy was assigned to the area until Sheriff Nick Pettigrew pulled the contract with Colchester. But residents still want something done quick.
This is not something I want to be reactive to. Some kid got hit or killed, and then we decide, hey, we should put a police officer there. Should have been there from the get-go.
We've tried asking questions to the police committee chairman, Kevin Bloomfield, but he's not been willing to talk much about the issue.
Things have been difficult, yes, and we're trying to get over that.
Residents like Kay Mallon say officials need to put the safety of the community first.
I think they just all need to work together.